Good day, Brutal Planet listeners. This is Eric Peterson, quarantining from Salt Lake City today. And I am joined today by guitar legend Michael Angelo Batio. How are you doing, Michael?
I'm doing great.
Where are you quarantining from?
From the city of Chicago, and it's still under lock and key right now.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's pretty crazy.
So things are pretty crazy there right now?
I live, in a more remote area. It's really in like the far north suburbs. So, there's not really, things are a little different up here. Mm-hmm. But, I haven't been going out much, and my tour got canceled for May. I had a, long tour, and hopefully we're picking it up again we have the dates where, it's just a matter if I can do it at the very end of July, and it goes all the way into December. There's 3 months in the U.S. and a month and a half in Europe.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so hopefully...
about 3 months in the U.S., I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so hopefully you will be able to do it.
Yes. August, September, October in the U.S., and then November until about the 18th of December in Europe, so I'm hoping.
And that reminds me, is that the Speed Kills tour, right?
Yeah, it's Speed Kills in the U.S., and then to coincide with the new record, we're calling it More Machine Than Man Tour in Europe.
Oh, okay. All right, because I think you're scheduled to hit Salt Lake City in September, I believe.
That's right, yes, for sure.
Yeah, So hopefully that still happens, so that has not been canceled. That's good to know.
No, it has not. I've got a really good agent, and he had told me that, it might not be, it's not going to be as many shows as a normal tour, quote unquote, but it's going to be, we're still going to do it.
Good.
And even if there's 2 and 3 days off in between some of the shows, which that wouldn't be a normal way to do it, but in this environment, we're still going to go for it.
Yeah. So you have speaking of the new album, you have a new album coming out on June 12th via Rat Pack Records called More Machine Than Man. Tell us a little bit about the album.
Well, it's Chris Adler from Lamb of God and Megadeth played drums on several tracks, and guest solo by Victor Wooten. And we were actually toying with the idea of putting together a band with Chris and Victor and myself. And what happened is Chris got into a really bad accident, and then just a lot of things happened where it got delayed. So I had 2 songs from Chris that he recorded, and then Victor, he's got, each of us has our own career. So I just finished the record myself, and I got a couple guest artists on it, but we wanted to do a really cool metal project, and I'm really happy with the results. It's the heaviest record I've ever done, and it's very sparse. I kind of was thinking about the Black Sabbath 13 when Rick Rubin, the producer, told Black Sabbath he wants to strip it down to the essence of the band, which is guitar, bass, drums, and Ozzy. Yeah. And so that's kind of my thought process on it.
Nice. And so it's all instrumental, or does it have vocals on it?
Yeah, it's all instrumental.
Oh,
yeah.
Nice. Because I saw the track that you released called Badlands, and that's a great song.
Oh, thanks. The groove is really cool.
Yeah.
I have to admit, I was really happy with that one because I was in my car and I started thinking of this beat and I started humming it and tapping it on my steering wheel. And, like a lot of artists, I just recorded it on my phone. I have hundreds of ideas on my iPhone.
Nice.
So I always liked that beat. And it's funny because, you think you can remember something, you come up with a riff in the middle of the night, and the next morning you're like, what the heck did I do?
Yep.
And I never do that. Not never, but I mean, the majority of the time I'll record it, and it's a lifesaver. Sometimes I'll video it if it's a real complex riff, but it really helps me be able to write a lot of music.
That's interesting. I wonder how many artists actually do that, or if they wake up the next morning and go, shit, what did I forget?
Yeah, a lot of times that happens. Huh. And, I found that you really don't remember. Even, 10 minutes later, if you come up with a great riff and then say, oh, yeah, I'll remember it, it's so catchy, and then just get distracted. The phone rings. Somebody comes to the door. You get an email. You check social media. Come back and go, what the heck did I just do?
Yeah.
You can't remember it.
Yeah.
And but it's a great way to just record or film it somewhere.
Well, so the video for that song, it reminds me of my own area. Where did you film the video?
Well, the Badlands, we filmed it in the desert in California. It was actually, it was like a mineral that I'm not really familiar with, like cobalt or something, but it was abandoned, obviously, and it had been abandoned for many, many years. But the video director, his name is Max Carlisle, he knew of this area. We drove probably 100 miles outside of L.A., and but the terrain was great. And I've been to Salt Lake City many times, and the salt flats. It almost looks like you're on a different planet.
It does.
And I can't say this looked like that, but we had an aerial, we had a drone with a beautiful camera on it, so we were able to take some really cool area videos, like overhead, and it was great to have this drone buzzing over my head while I'm, just walking in the desert. I loved it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the desert is one of my favorite places. People think it's dead, but it's so alive, and if you just get out there, it's so alive. And so I love the fact that you're out there kind of embracing the desert.
Yes. Well, what the song was written about is I've been to Montana many times. There's an area called Glendive, Montana. It's a city. And there's a music store there, and they're almost like family to me. It's called Hell Creek Music and More. And they are 5 minutes from the Montana Badlands. And that is something to see. If we could have filmed it there, I would have. But you can't compare that to the salt flats. They're very different, but they have one thing in common. They both look like you're not on planet Earth.
Yeah.
That's what the inspiration for the song, and I thought, this location we picked in California was a cool way to illustrate it, even if it wasn't, Montana.
Yeah. So another song I'm curious about on the album is you have another song called Dreamin' on 1986. What's that one? What's behind that one?
Well, I've been recording a long time, and I used to bring an acoustic guitar. We used to go up to. I lived in L.A. for even though I'm from Chicago and I'm back here now, but I lived in L.A. for a long time, and I used to go to Griffith Park by the observatory, just play acoustic. Then when we moved to Woodland Hills, I would go up to Topanga Canyon, and I used to record myself. I would just bring a cassette player out there, and I'd play. And so I've always been recording myself and to get ideas for songs. And I just used to sit around playing acoustic, and I was sitting around one day about a year ago, because I had finished the album late last year, and I put a capo on my guitar and started playing, and I just pressed record into the DAW system, and I came up with this song. Nice. It wasn't like it was pre-planned. I just jammed that song like I used to back in the day, and that's why I said it was and it reminded me of when I used to just jam and record myself back in the old days, when I was real young, and that's what I did. That's why I called it that.
Oh, that's interesting. That's very interesting. So the other thing I was going to ask you about is I was reading some of your bio stuff, and I just want to know, I'm just curious, do you get free Pizza Hut, free Taco Bell, KFC, and flights on United for free for all the work you've done for them?
You mean all the session work?
Yeah.
I have 1.2 million miles with United, so I'm a lifetime, top status flyer. But the only time you really got free things from them is when you did the work for them.
Okay.
It's not a lifetime. Like when we did the Taco Bell commercials, they'd bring in, the producer would have lunch. So,
Yeah.
because we always recorded sessions during the day. It was never at night. Really, I'd be at the studio literally 8 a.m. But yeah, it was only, or like when we did things for, the Wolves hockey team in Chicago.
Yeah.
We get tickets. But it wouldn't be like a lifetime thing.
Yeah. So how did you get involved with that kind of stuff?
Well, I have a degree in music theory and composition, and again, I've said it before, but it doesn't make me smarter or better or cooler. It just means I have a college degree, but I did learn a lot. But one of the courses that I went for was a course that they had at my university, Northeastern, that where you could get you could be a recording engineer if you got somebody outside to sponsor you. In other words, they would you would get 3 credit hours, and you had to find a studio willing to do it. And there was a recording studio about 5 miles from my house. And when I was a kid riding a bike, I used to see it all the time. And so I just went in there and decided, I'm going to give it a chance. I've been looking at this since I was a kid, since I was riding a bike, literally, and as a teenager. And I walked in, and a guy named Todd McGuire was there. And I said, "Hey, Todd, this is what's going on." And I said, I get 3 credit hours if I learn to be a recording engineer. And it was a really nice studio, 24-track analog at the time.
Yeah.
And he had this old Les Paul in the corner. And I go, "Hey, Todd, do you mind if I check out that guitar?" He goes, "No." And I played what I used to call my intimidation riffs. and what I did, I studied jazz, and I was ripping on his guitar. He goes, "Wow." He goes, "You can really play." I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "You read music?" I go, "Oh, yeah." And so it turned out Todd McGuire started a company called TMC Music, and he was the company that wrote the jingles for all these TV commercials. So I got an A in the class. I learned nothing about recording engineering, but he started hiring me to do sessions because I was so good at it. I just had a feel for it. Like, you see a C chord, but that's not what they want you to play. You see that they want you to interpret it and make it musical, and I was good at it. And he had all sorts of cool gear that I could play, like beautiful Martin guitars and vintage Les Pauls and nice amps. So I really didn't even have to bring my stuff. There were so many different sounds available to me, and it worked out really good. But I worked for him for a long time.
That's interesting. And a lot of people don't even probably realize that how much need there is for that not even in the music industry, to come up with jingles.
Yeah. I mean, I'll never forget this song he wrote. It was "You're Only Part of the Picture." And I'm thinking, ugh. I didn't really like the song, but man, could he write jingles. Wow. I mean, he was just really good at it, and he was a super nice guy. Like, he had a really good demeanor and always happy, and was a very good spokesman for the company. But we had a house band. It was a guy named Jeff on drums, Gordon on keys, but we would all record together. And so I would be in an ISO booth, just a small one, but we had this band, and we recorded together for like 5-6 years.
Wow.
But we were like the top call session guys in Chicago.
That's really interesting. So
but when you
go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, well, see, back then, L.A. might be the movie capital and the music capital like Nashville, but Chicago was the TV and radio commercial capital as far as music, because if you think about what was daytime television back then, Jenny Jones, Phil Donahue, Oprah Winfrey, Jerry Springer, where were they located? All in Chicago.
Yes.
So it really, there was a market there. It's not there anymore,
So the other thing I wanted to ask you about is your movie. I mean, how can we not talk about Shock 'Em Dead?
Yeah, that was fun to do. I have to admit, at that time, I was really living the dream. I was in the band Nitro. Our album was on the charts.
Yeah.
We were on tour. At that time, with a camera crew touring all over the United States, from New York, all over the place. We used to play Salt Lake City a lot too. And we had a film crew filming our second MTV video. And then in the middle of that video, I flew to LA to film a movie. I mean, it's like, wow. And then I come back, I fly to New York, and we're filming an MTV video. It's like, it was the life. It literally was the life. And, but yeah, Shock 'Em Dead was fun. And they actually made that movie with me in mind.
Did they really?
Because it was, that Angel Martin, Michelangelo, and he was kind of designed after me. And that's why they had me in mind for the movie.
Ah, okay. All right. So and I remember that movie when it came out. It was a fun movie. It was because I love horror movies, so it's easy for me to get sucked into horror movies, and I loved it. So it's good, and it had your signature guitar in there and everything, and it was great. It was a great movie.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it was it was a made-for-TV movie. It was made for Cinemax at the time, and it was it was a fun kind of campy movie. I mean, I enjoyed it. And I mean, the worst review we got was they said they didn't like the movie, but man, that guitar player was amazing. And so, but it became kind of a cult classic. I mean, I actually, a few years ago for the anniversary, I went to Los Angeles, and it was a sold out around Halloween. It was sold out theater. And they played the movie. People knew all the lines, sang all the songs. It was like Rocky Horror. And then
cool.
they had the director, and then I played, and we talked about the movie. It was really cool. It was an old silent movie theater in Hollywood. They still had the organ there. They pictures of all the stars back in the day. I mean, from Clark Gable to it was amazing. And
cool.
but it was so it was kind of cool to see that the movie lasted.
Yeah, that is really cool. I'm so cool that you got to go back and do some reconnecting with people on it. So
yeah, I was just because it's nice to see something you've done, that people still enjoy it.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
It's art. I mean, but it's also subjective. You can do the greatest song or play the greatest solo ever, but if people don't like it, they don't like it. Or you can do something you don't think is very good, but people love it, and you're like, okay, well, I'll take it.
Yeah.
You just never know.
Yeah. Well, Michael, I appreciate your time, and it's been amazing to interview you. And everybody, go pick up June 12th. Go pick up your new album called More Machine Than Man. And I'm looking forward to hopefully seeing you in September in Salt Lake City.
Oh yeah. And if when it gets close, I hope it's on, and we think it is. But yeah, I'll give you passes. Everything will be cool.
Yeah, we'll do a review of the show, and we'll have fun.
Sounds great. Well, thanks. It's great talking to you.
Yeah, good to talk to you. Have a good day.
You too.
All right. Bye.